2. We explain what is money and what are the functions of money. We then ask the question whether the Quran and Sunnah have provided guidance concerning the subject of what is money. This allows us to introduce what may be called Sunnah money and to describe that money. The hadith concerning Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu and the basket of dates, as well as the hadith about gold for gold, would be examined in minute detail. We would demonstrate how Sunnah money functions successfully as money all throughout history. We then turn to the emergence of Gog and Magog and the world order of Gog and Magog, a facade in which money, like so many other things, was corrupted. This is explained through a description of the history of money since the modern West took initial control over the world. The explanation would culminate with the collapse of the Bretton Woods Accord in September 1971. All through this process of the corruption of money, the system operated in a manner that permitted the massive unjust transfer of wealth from the masses of the world to a predatory elite. That was riba. And just a note to let you know concerning the books that are in front of you, they are available for you to use today throughout the seminar. However, if you'd like to take them home with you, they are available on sale at $50 per copy. So I now introduce once again our dear Sheikh Maulana Imran Hosein to commence session 2.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We begin again in Allah's blessed name. We praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all His noble messengers, and in particular on the last of them all, the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala. Is money. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with needs which can only be fulfilled through buying and selling. If Allah ta'ala created us with needs which can only be fulfilled through buying and selling, would He not also create money? Or did He make a mistake that we ought to now correct? Well, what are the functions of money? Mikhail, number 9. What are the functions of money? Money has 3 basic functions. Number 1, to function as a medium of exchange. Barter has its limitations. I need a haircut. And my wife says to me, look, I tired cut your hair, why you don't go to the barber? So I went to the barber. Barber takes time, you gotta find parking, you gotta wait in line. Last time I took a haircut, I had to wait 1 hour. With your wife, you don't have to wait. So the barber cut my hair. Time to pay the barber, so I offered him a copy of Prohibition of Riba. Barber said to me, he said, Sheikh, I don't want to disrespect you, Sheikh, but I'm not interested in the book. So barter has its limitations. I need something called money. That when I pay him with the money, when he go in the market to buy tomatoes, or tomatoes, anyone you want, he could buy the tomatoes with the money. Eh? And that fella now, who sell the tomatoes, he wants some pumpkin. So he go use the same money to buy pumpkin. That is a medium of exchange. Money has a second function to perform. And that is, what should be the value assigned to the haircut? In Takarico is $20. In San Fernando, I pay $15. 15, yeah. It depends on how much hair they cut in. How much should we pay for the tomatoes? But don't talk about tomatoes. Let me charge something. Let me use something else now. Not tomatoes, because that's too really high now. How much should be the value assigned to my crop of rice? To break me back, to plant that rice. Going in the water. And how much should be the value assigned to your laptop computer that you made up there in the Silicon Valley? What is the value of things is important. And so money has a second function to perform, and that is to be a measure of value. And value is important. Because in the time of Shu'aib alayhi salam, the Prophet Shu'aib, they used to thief in the market, and Allah punished them. What kind of thieving they used to do? Allah responded in the Quran, and He said it 3 times. وَلَا تَبْخَسُ النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. Do not diminish the value of people's property, people's goods, people's things, people's labor. وَلَا تَبْخَسُ النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. Don't rip them off. The thing values so much, and you bring it down here. That is a violation of Allah's command in the Quran. And so money must faithfully assign a value to things. Money has a third function, but the Jews don't want you to know about it. Money has a third function. If I work for the whole month, a whole month of sweat, and you pay me, the money should preserve the 1 month of sweat. But I carry the money home and the money leaking. By the time I reach home, half of the month gone. It's only 2 weeks left. Money leaking. No, that can't function as money. It must faithfully preserve the 1 month of sweat. The value of that 1 month must be faithfully preserved by the money. And so money has a third function to perform, to be a store of value. But the Jews don't want you to know that. If these are the, take it down now. If these are the basic functions of money, let us now turn to money in Islam. What is money in Islam? Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu once came to the Prophet ﷺ with a basket of dates. Now make sure you understand this one, because you've got to teach it to others. And he offered some of the dates to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, looked at the dates. He said, Bilal, these are very high quality dates. Where did you get them? Bilal said, O Messenger of Allah, I had 2 baskets of inferior quality dates. They come from California now. And I exchanged them for this 1 basket of superior quality dates. They come from Arabia, from Medina. I had 2 baskets of inferior quality dates, and I exchanged them for this one basket of superior quality dates. Now, the two baskets of inferior quality dates were worth $50 each. So the total value was how much? $100. And the value of the one basket of superior dates was $100. So in value, they was the same. Anna? But the Prophet looked at Bilal. He says, Bilal, this is the essence of riba. Oh Lord. Oh, that is trouble. Because riba in the Quran, and Allah says He waging war against you. And the Prophet cursed you. Riba is so bad that the Prophet said it's divided. Riba is of 70 different parts. The smallest is equivalent to a man marrying his own mother. I quoted that one day in Eid Salat Khutbah, a gathering about 10,000 people in New York. When I finished the khutbah, the people tell me I spoiled the Eid. This is terrible, riba. Bilal, what you should have done was to sell the two baskets for the $50 and $50, $100, and then buy the one basket. But to have a direct exchange of two baskets of dates for one was riba. If you turn to page 121, you will get the hadith. When you go back home, you'll read the chapter, not now. Why was it haram to exchange two baskets of dates for one? Or one basket of dates for two? I give you one, you give me two. Why was it haram? Why was it riba? But Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu exchanged one camel for four. And that wasn't riba, that wasn't haram. And Umar radiallahu ta'ala, no, Umar exchanged the one for four, and Ali exchanged one for 20. The 20 were babies, and the one was a pregnant she-camel. So it was halal, it was permissible to have a direct exchange of camels that was unequal. One for 20, one for 4. But it was haram, it was riba, to have an unequal exchange of dates. Why was this haram and that halal? 100 years ago, even school child could answer that question. But the brainwashing is so intense today that nobody can answer that question. That is the evidence of where we are today, after such a prolonged period of total brainwashing. CNN and company. To answer that question, why was it haram, why was it prohibited, why was it riba to have an unequal exchange of dates? But it was not prohibited, it was not riba to have an unequal exchange of camels. To answer that question, we go to another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Mikael, number gold for gold. Gold for gold, where is it? Number 7. Number 7. To answer that question, we go to another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. You will find it on page 120. The Prophet said, that if you have an exchange of gold for gold, you give me a basket of gold, I give you a basket of gold. But are you strong enough to lift up a basket of gold? If you have an exchange of gold for gold, or if you have an exchange of silver for silver, or wheat for wheat, or barley for barley, or dates for dates, which is Bilal, or salt for salt, then it have to be equal, 1 for 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 3. You can't be 1 for 2. You can't be 1 for 4. You can't be 1 for 20. It have to be 1 for 1 or 2 for 2, 3 for 4. If it is not an equal exchange, then that is riba. That is haram. Okay. Well, they taught us this hadith, in the Darul Uloom. But what the teacher never taught us is what is common to all 6. No, they didn't tell us this in the classroom, What is there that is common to all 6 of these things mentioned here? Gold and silver and wheat and barley and dates and salt. Answer: all of them were used as money in the market in Medina. And so when there was a shortage of precious metals, gold and silver, they would use dates as money. And since dates were used as money, that is why an unequal exchange was prohibited. Money for money, unequal, prohibited. Once it's the same money. If it's dates for salt, no problem. If it's wheat for barley, no problem. If it's gold for dates, no problem. But if it is gold for gold, or silver for silver, or wheat for wheat, or barley for barley, or dates for dates, it had to be equal. Why? This we'll answer in the next session. But at this point in time, we could explain. If I give you 1 basket of dates, and I say, well, you return me the dates next year, but 2 baskets. That is a loan on 100% interest, See? A loan on 100% interest. That's why it is prohibited. So because dates were used as money, it was prohibited to have an unequal exchange. So Bilal, what you should have done was to sell the 2 baskets and take that money and buy the 1 basket. Well, then why was it not prohibited to exchange 1 camel for 4? Because animals were never used as money. I work for the whole month and I get my salary. Salary is a goat. Carrying the salary home, salary dead. But when I reach home, I tell my wife, Dolahin salary dead. So she said, go tell the boss. So I went to the boss, I said, boss, salary dead. Boss said, but when I give you salary, salary was living. See? Salary could fall sick. Salary could break your foot. So you could not use animals as money. Since animals were not used as money, you could have an unequal exchange. But when once something was used as money, you were not allowed to have an unequal exchange. Okay, so now we've answered that question. But what is there common to, where you gone? Mikhail, where you gone? What is there that is common to all 6? Number one, that they all functioned as money So the definition of money in the Sunnah is, number one, it is precious metals. Or number two, if precious metals were in short supply, it would be what we may call commodities, which are in plentiful supply in the market and which have a shelf life. So if you're in Cuba and you want to give up cigars like Fidel Castro, and you want to bring back Sunnah money, and you have a shortage of gold and silver in the market in Cuba, what would you use as money? Remember, we don't want to smoke, eh? Sugar is correct. Sugar is correct. And if you are in the island of Java in Indonesia, my wife and I drove across the whole island. It was beautiful. Oh, from one end to the other we drove. If you're in the island of Java in Indonesia and you want to bring back Sunnah money and you have a shortage of gold and silver, what would you use as money? Rice. Correct. Rice. And so welcome to Sunnah money. You never heard the term before. First time you heard it. I leave behind me two things. So long as you hold on to them, you will never go astray. Here is one of them. Sunnah money. But Sunnah money has a second characteristic. And that is that in every instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the value of the money, stupidity, the value of the money is inside the money. Why, you can't understand? In other words, the money has intrinsic value. The value inside the money. So the only way they could rip you off is if they come and they hold on to you and they mug you and they put their hand in their pocket and take out the money. That's the only way, because the value of the money inside the money. Welcome, brothers and sisters, to Sunnah money. Is this money in the Quran as well? You can take it down now. Is this money in the Quran as well? That is my question. Yes, it is. Let us go to Surah Ali Imran. And we have a hafiz of the Quran right in front of me. So watch out. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ومن أهل الكتاب من تأمنه بقنطار يؤديه إليك ومنهم من تأمنه بدينار لا يؤديه إليك ذلك بأنهم قالوا ليس علينا إلا ما دمت عليه قائمة ومن أهل الكتاب من تأمنه بقنطار يؤديه إليك ومنهم من تأمنه بدينار لا يؤديه إليك إلا ما دمت عليه قائمة ذلك بأنهم قالوا ليس علينا في الأميين سبيل ويقولون على الله الكذب وهم يعلمون. The word of Allah Most High. And amongst the Ahlul Kitab, the people of the Torah, there are those who, breads, you could keep this for me. Are going for a few months, are coming back. How much? A quintar. 1,200 ounces of gold. $350,000 US. Breads. You could keep it for me. Yes, of course. And when I come back after a few months, bread, you have my money? Here is your money, man. So he kept it safely and he returned it to me. But another man comes and he said, breads, you could keep this for me. How much? 1 dinar. Only 1 dinar. I go in for a few months. When he come back and he asks him back for his money, he ain't getting it back. But you give that fella 1,200 dinars back when he asks him. But you ain't giving me my 1. The only way I could get this 1 dinar back is if I stand up here and I pong in and I pong in and I pong. Give me back my money. Give me back my money. Why the double standards? Why? Oh, that is your brother Jew. And me ain't no Jew. So I have the status of a cockroach. Al-Ummi is normally translated as someone who can't read and write. Illiterate. But when the Jew uses the word Ummi, what he means by that is someone who is not a Jew, someone who is Gentile. The reason why he wouldn't return it is because قَالُوا لَيْسَ عَلَيْنَا فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ السَّبِيلُ. We have no moral obligations to these cockroaches. We can rip them off. وَيَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. But they're telling a lie against Allah, and they know it. Now in this verse of the blessed Quran, the word dinar appears. And this dinar ain't no paper dinar. This is a gold coin. And this is the word of Allah Most High. And so don't come and tell me there's not money in the Quran, man. If you didn't know it, now you know it. Is this the only money in the Quran? Dinar, a gold coin? No. You remember when they put Yusuf down the well? Remember? And then the travelers came and they took him out of the well. They found him. Haza Ghulam. We got a boy. And they took him to Misr. And they sold him. They sell him. How much they sell him for? وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةٍ. They sold him for a few measly dirhams. Oh, wait a minute. So not only is dinar in the Quran, but dirham is also in the Quran. So you better watch it, eh? You're dealing with the word of Allah. When the word of Allah comes, you better submit to the word of Allah and forget your opinion. This is money. A dinar is a gold coin, a dirham is a silver coin. And even Europe used the word dinar. And so Sunnah money is also in the Quran. Did this money function successfully as money? What are the functions of money again? The functions of money were number 9. The functions of money were medium of exchange. Did gold and silver function successfully as a medium of exchange? Yes. For thousands of years. Your paper money only come yesterday, you know. Before paper money was gold and silver. Or you saying about how inconvenient it is to have gold coins in your pocket. It is way down, you know, looking good. It is more convenient to have a few pieces of paper, you put it in your wallet. Truth is not determined by convenience. You do not locate, identify, and recognize truth using a yardstick called convenience. All through history, gold and silver function successfully as a medium of exchange, function successfully as a measure of value. You had something to sell from Europe, and we had something to sell from Africa. And the value of what we had in Africa and the value of what you had in Europe were faithfully reflected in the measure of value. And so when we ship 1 ton of wheat to you, we would get in exchange so much of what you're giving us. So this money functioned successfully. But money has a third function to perform, and that is to be a store of value. So I work for the whole month, and my salary at the end of the month could buy a camel. And I got my salary in gold. And I carry it home, and I give it to my dullahin. You must always do that. Give it to your dullahin and tell her, keep it safe. 5 years later, demand and supply remaining constant. When I take out the money, it could still buy the camel. In other words, Sunnah money has faithfully stored its value. Sunnah money has functioned successfully as money. Now let us turn, you can take it down. Now let us turn to what Gog and Magog did. The Quran tells us about Gog and Magog. إِنَّ يَأْجُوجَ وَمَأْجُوجَ مُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. That Gog and Magog commit fasad on earth. Fasad is to corrupt, but it's more than corruption. It is a corruption which destroys. You thief the man car. Well, all right now. If you thief the man car, you do what you had to do with it. You park it up in Abercrombie Street now. Police go find it. The man go get back his car. But no. You not only thief the man car, you get in some cane field and carry on and you burn the car down. That is fasad. It is corruption which destroys. And when you corrupt the whole earth, you will destroy the whole earth. And when you corrupt the market, you will destroy the market. Money is the heart of the market. The market, in order to function successfully as a market, must be a free market and a fair market. A free market and a fair market. And so money must function in that market in a manner which is fair and just. But when Gog and Magog are released into the world, and when they take over the market, as they took over when they colonized the rest of non-European humanity, this was the purpose of colonization. It was never the intention of European colonization to take over control of the rest of the world permanently. No. It is only to take control of Africa and take control of China and take control of the non-European world in order to be able to plant some evil seeds and then to back and hide behind a mango tree. While all these fools, by midnight, it had to be midnight, and you have fireworks, and you have a flag going up, and they're proclaiming themselves a free and independent people, while Massa hiding behind a mango tree and he laughing, he belly full. This is one of the lessons that Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, taught us at the Alimi Institute. I am amazed at that man's capacity for understanding. He said, you believe that you are now decolonized. You believe that you are now a free and independent people, and the European colonizer has returned back home. No. You are still in political slavery. You are still in economic slavery. You are still in cultural slavery. And worst of all, you are still in intellectual slavery. These are the words of Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, 1965. So he corrupts the market. And he plants an evil seed. And he progressively and incrementally removes real money, sunnah money, and he replaces it with artificial money. The money with which he replaces it functions as a medium of exchange, yes. So convenient to use paper. But no longer functions as a measure of value. She's a black woman. I know her. I know her very well. And Sheikh Ali Mustafa knows her. She's a black woman. And you'll find her as a domestic servant in every home of South Africa. Even Muslim homes. They can afford 4 black women as servants. Sometimes 6 black women as servants in the home. She's just a black woman. And she's paid a salary. And what is used to measure her labor has a tendency to leak. So she's paid the equivalent of $40. And she measures her value in corn, because that's the stable food, corn. All the black people eat corn. It's cheap and it's very valuable, nutritious. And she makes a meal called mealie meal. I tasted, you know. I didn't like it. Mealie meal. Mealie meal. Or mealie meal means corn meal. Borota. Good. I was white in color. Yeah. And so this money is not faithfully representing the value of her labor. The value of labor going down. She could have got a salary which used to give her 40 bags of mealie meal. And then the salary come the equivalent of 30 bags of mealie meal. And then 20 bags of mealie meal. But the price of a computer in the market going up, and the value of her labor going down. But you don't want her to recognize slavery. No. Because the day she recognizes the slavery, she coming out with a cutlass on the road. It's revolution, it's blood. So in order to put a blind before the eyes of the laboring masses, so they wouldn't recognize the slavery with the money which is going down in value, you institute something called minimum wage legislation. So you could put a cover over the pot so it don't boil over. Because if it boil over, you will get another butler. And you don't want another butler. So you have something called minimum wage legislation. So you will not be able to see and recognize the slavery. But it's not only as a measure of value that this money is failing, it is also as a store of value. Number 14, please. Now, I work for the whole month, and I got my salary in gold. And remember, it could buy a camel? Right. Now they don't want to pay me my salary in gold anymore. They're paying me my salary in paper. And they say, why don't you trust us? You ain't see what they write down in the paper? In God we trust. So I take the paper, whole month's salary, carry it home, I give it to Dollar Hin, put it away. 5 years later, I take out the salary. It can't buy a camel anymore. You could only buy a donkey now. Something wrong here. I'm being ripped off. And 5 years later, you can't buy a donkey anymore. You can only buy a goat. Something is terribly wrong here. 5 years later, can't buy a goat anymore, could only buy a chicken. And at the end of the day, when you reach Indonesia and you reach Turkey, you can only buy doubles. Why is it that only a Malcolm X can understand this? Why? Why is it that it takes a black man who never went to Al-Azhar University, who didn't even know the Arabic language, Malcolm, but he can understand this, and the rest of us can't understand it? That money leaking. Well, then Malcolm will ask, where my money gone? Malcolm will ask, who take my money? And then Malcolm will discover, because Allah gave him eyes with which to see, Malcolm will discover that my loss is someone else's gain. It's not just that the money leaking, but it have a wicked man under there catching the money when it leaks. And so as Africa becomes poorer and poorer, he gets richer and richer. That is oppression. And that is what the paper money has done, as it kept on losing its value. Let's take a look at number 'Where's the one with the value of the US dollar? $20. See, you could find, here it is. Remove that. This money leaking. Sunnah money functions successfully as money. But look at this money. The US dollar is the king currency, the international currency. In 1920, up to 1920, 20 US dollars were equivalent to 1 ounce of gold. And then came April of 1933, when they wanted to try out the system, trial run, to see whether it works the way they want it to work. Trial run. While we, the scholars of Islam, were sleeping or eating halwa. So guess what they did? Up to 1933, you could go to any bank in the United States with $20 in paper, and you'll get your ounce of gold. It was redeemable. But in April of 1933, Uncle Sam declared that it is now illegal for anyone to keep gold. You could keep jewelry, no problem. On the 6th of April, you will find it in this book somewhere, you will find a declaration. I have printed it in the book. He made a declaration, a law, prohibiting anyone to keep gold as coins or as bullion. You had to sell your gold to Uncle Sam, that's the US government, at the exchange of $20 to 1 ounce of gold. If after a certain date you were found with any gold coins or gold bullion, we jail in you for 6 months, and we could also fine you $10,000. So everybody went very quick and they sell their gold to Uncle Sam. Of course, trusting Uncle Sam, because he print on the thing, "In God we trust." After Uncle Sam had exchanged all the gold for paper, then Uncle Sam removed the ban on gold. But before he removed the ban on gold, he changed the price of gold. Meaning, he changed the value of the paper. He now made it $35 to 1 ounce of gold. And he said, you better buy back your gold quick before I change it again. And so the American people woke up to the horror that their own government had ripped them off by almost half of their wealth. Where were the learned scholars of Islam when this happened? Did they not understand that this was a trial run for what is to come in the future? Where were the muftis issuing fatwa all the time? Did they not understand what was happening? Why were we not taught the subject when we were students? Why is it that there were no teachers teaching the subject to us? Nowhere. Not in Al-Azhar University, nowhere. May Allah have mercy on them who came before us. But we have a right today to ask, why were there no teachers? Why were there no scholars of Islam attempting to understand what was happening in the world of money? When we bought back our gold from Uncle Sam at $35 an ounce, we were robbed of almost half of our wealth. And so now you can understand what happens when the value of money falls. My loss is their gain. Malcolm would have understood it, but the rest of us can't understand it. My loss is your gain. There is an invisible transfer of wealth. Every time the value of that money falls, an invisible transfer of wealth from the innocent masses to a blood-sucking predatory elite. It is not that they simply want to get rich, to buy Mercedes-Benz, sports Mercedes-Benz, and have swimming pool in the backyard and all these things. No! That is not the purpose of their ripping us off. It is far worse than that. But in order to understand that, you have to come to Allah and His Messenger for them to explain to you that the purpose of the corruption of money, the replacement of sunnah money with this artificial money, which is constantly losing in value, the purpose for which it functions is to rip off mankind of their wealth, to reduce mankind to poverty, to reduce mankind to destitution, so that massa can rule without having to send the American Marines in. He rules you now through systems, not through armies anymore. He has another plan up his sleeve when he reduces us to poverty and destitution in a wealthy country like Trinidad, with boundless energy resources, with such a vibrant economy, with such a literate population, with such excellent infrastructure, because a small island, we have roads everywhere, could travel. In a small economy like a small island like Trinidad, how do we explain? And these are the words of a government minister on television. I heard him with me own ears. That 70%, this is Danny Montano, 70% of the working force of this country earns less than $3,000 a month. Poverty level. How do we explain that a small elite in this country living it up, wealthy and growing richer, when in a powerful economy like this, so many people remain simply at the level of being able to meet their monthly expenses barely every month? That's all. Is this by accident or is this by design? This ain't bad, you know. At least you could still buy your doubles. We go to Indonesia now, as I've been to Indonesia. Go to Turkey. In Indonesia, the Indonesian rupiah collapsed about 4 or 5 years ago, overnight, to 20,000 rupiah to $1 US. And Indonesia lost more than half its wealth overnight. Where it gone? Ask Singapore now. Ask Hong Kong. And ask Manhattan. They wouldn't tell you. That way it gone. The banking industry has sucked it up. But if Indonesia bad, listen to Turkey. Until the Turkish government just acted about 2-3 months ago. Do you know what was the value of a Turkish lira? 1.6 million Turkish liras equal $1 US. You want to buy a loaf of bread, you have to carry a wheelbarrow with money? I had a very enjoyable experience in Indonesia. My wife wanted to do some shopping. So yeah, take $1 million. I gave her $1 million to go shop. $1 million in Indonesian money was about $100 US. When the people reach where Turkey reached, they call doubles. Trinidad still by the goat. What is the other basic function of this corruption of money? Number one is to rip us off, to reduce us to poverty and destitution, where we can no longer resist the slave master. You ain't going to march to no shagaramas anymore. You got to bow down and submit to massa. when you're in destitution. You're only concerned about your belly. But there's a second function for the corruption of money. And that is, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, كَادَ الْفَقْرُ أَنْ يَكُونَ كُفْرًا, that poverty and destitution can lead a people to kufr. They know that that land out there is oppressing Muslims, waging war on Islam. They know it. But they say breads is a matter of bread and butter. I want my US visa. Me ain't going to jeopardize my US visa for none of your Islam out there. So you stay away from me. I want to protect my US visa. So كَادَ الْفَقْرُ أَنْ يَكُونَ كُفْرًا. Poverty can lead a people to kufr, to betray Allah and His Messenger for a US visa. So you could go up to New York and buy 2 suitcases full, bring it back down and sell. This is the grand design of those who are in control of the world today and who have taken money, the Gog and Magog world order, and have corrupted it. It's not just haram. You can take it down now. It's not just haram. It is also riba. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, I still have another 2 minutes. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, if you meet a man coming to the market to sell his goods, and you buy his goods from him before he enters into the market, he come with a whole truckload of tupitambo. Sheikh Ali Mustafa, you know where tupitambo? Oh, you know where tupitambo, okay. Mazinga, show him what is tupitambo. The man come with a whole truckload of tupitambo. And you buy tupitambo from him for $2 a pound, wholesale. But when he went in the market, he found he could get $3 a pound, wholesale. The Prophet said that's riba. You ripped him off. You ripped him off. It is an unjust transfer of wealth. Your gain was his loss. That man will never want to do business with you again. He wouldn't even want to shake hands with you again. Well, in the same way that rip-off was riba, this rip-off is also riba. Except that this is the biggest rip-off since Adam alayhi salam set foot on earth. What shall we do about it? When we come back, inshallah, this afternoon, we have one more lesson to teach before we turn to the question, what shall we do about it? How shall we respond to it? That lesson that we'll turn to when we come back this afternoon is money not just leaking and losing value, but money being lent on interest. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. We have until 1:45, and I don't want only questions. I want you to also comment, your comments. And I want to see audience interaction. We have sitting in this audience today, alhamdulillah, people with considerable experience in this field. Our brother Imtiaz is here, one of the pioneers in this country in this field. We're very happy to have him here. So we'd like to see some interaction from the audience, talking to each other, in addition to questions to pose to me. Okay, shall we start? Anyone wants to make a comment? Yes? That's Fai's voice.
Yes.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam tullah.
I just want to make a comment, Maulana. I don't think I can disagree with what you are saying. I think everybody is aware of what's happening. I just want to bring to the fore some things in addition to what you are saying. Recently, I was trying to figure out why it is that Henry Kissinger visits Trinidad and Tobago very quietly. Henry Kissinger.
Mm-hmm.
And then today, listening to Prime Minister Manning saying he's going to visit Israel to buy a boat. The Prime Minister of this country is going to Israel to buy a boat. And it's all part of what I would call weapons of mass deception. The anti-terrorism bill, for example, and the crime level in Trinidad and Tobago is all planned to create a police state in Trinidad and Tobago.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. This is beautiful. The crime situation in this country. The crime situation, the escalating crime situation in this country has as part of its agenda the creation of a police state. That's beautifully spoken, Faiz. Go ahead.
Problem is, I am concerned what the Muslims are going to do, because the solution lies with the Muslims. The problem is, we are divided, and we are being encouraged to be divided. And we ourselves are playing a very important role in mashing up ourselves. I think that we have to, possibly this afternoon, in your session, we could possibly look at how we can be united. And that's common problem that we are facing. And to save the Trinidad and Tobago, we can't talk about mankind because we're too small. But at least to set an example how we can correct the situation. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. Well spoken, Faiz. We have two things to do. We have to deliver a wake-up call. And yet we have to deliver the wake-up call in such a way that we don't offend people. Now that's an impossible task. I use the gentle language here today about the scholars of Islam, including Imran. May have taken myself out. We either sleep in or we eat in halwa. I mean, that's gentle language. Eh? And you know what happened to me? I gave this lecture in a city called Perth in in Australia. When I finished with the lecture, a fella get up and he hit me for a 6 in the bamboo. Yeah, even though I use this gentle language. He said, Imran, your teacher Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari would not have spoken like that. And his teacher Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiqui would not have spoken like that. How could you talk like that? Man hit me for a 6 in the bamboo. So it's a difficult thing. You have to deliver an effective wake-up call, particularly to the scholars of Islam. You got to wake them up. I wish Mufti Shabir was alive today. I love that brother. You got to wake them up. And yet, you have to try not to offend anyone. So if I'm failing by talking about halwa, you might probably have a better way to show me. But Faiz is correct. If we are to unite ourselves to respond appropriately, we have to first wake up the scholars of Islam, because these are the teachers of the community. I forgot to mention, we not only have Imtiaz in the gathering here, who has a tremendous amount of experience in this field, we also have Sister Razi at the back, and we're very grateful to have her here tonight. Any other questions or comments? Yes. Where's the microphone? Okay, go ahead.
I don't understand how come if I give somebody $2 per pound for a truckload of goods when he could have gotten it in the market for $3, right? I would call it a bargain from my point of view, that I got it for a better deal. How is that haram? Because you could look at it at, well, you know, you don't know, and you accept my offer for $2, so I get a cheaper price.
Okay. What happened was that he did not know the market price, but you knew the market price. and you exploited his ignorance of the market price to your advantage. In other words, you try a fast one on him. Because if you had waited only 5 minutes and he had entered the market, he'd never sell you for $2 a pound. Never. You exploited his ignorance of the market price to deceive him. A transaction based on deception, which yielded a profit or a gain greater than that to which you were justly entitled. That's the elegant way of saying it. A transaction based on deception, which yielded a profit or a gain greater than that to which you were justly entitled. Riba. But the Americans have a pretty way to call it. The Americans say, you rip off the man. That's what happened. It was a rip-off. The Quran says, لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل. Don't rip off each other. Don't rip off each other. لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم. Rather, business transactions should try to achieve mutual satisfaction. So when the man bring his car and give it to you to repair the car, was only a fuse that bad, you know. You could have changed the fuse with $2. But you tell the man, is the whole crankshaft gone? It go take 3 days to repair this car. I go try to give you in 3 days. I don't know if I could do it. And you're going to have to pay $5,000. Good? When you get to know what the man did to you, you will never want to go back to do business with him. You will never be able to win Indonesia for Islam, and win Malaysia and Singapore for Islam, and win China for Islam if you do business that way. But if you go to the man with your car, and he repairs the car for you, and he does a good job, and he charges you a fair price, and you are satisfied with the work done, and he is satisfied with the money he receives, then even if you leave San Fernando and you're gone to live Santa Cruz, you're still coming back San Fernando to his garage. Because you have trust between you. If you could trust a man with business, you could trust him with your heart and the God that you worship. That's how we want Indonesia to Islam. So we do not engage in business transactions which involve deception. Any other? Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. I want to say this on behalf of some of the scholars. You see, the position was somewhat what is being offered is this. They say that we are living in a time in which the economy is what it is. So we can't do otherwise, and therefore we have to accept that this what we call isdirar. Isdirar. So it's a case of we can't help it. So therefore, that is why I think some of them have given the fatwa that it is halal, you see, or that it's no sin. What do you comment on this?
You cannot take something which is haram and declare it to be halal. No. A mufti came to my home in New York. Young man, full of vigor, bubbling with enthusiasm. And he's an expert on riba, Pakistani mufti. So I asked the mufti about the paper money. I said, Mufti, haram? Paper is haram? Mufti replied to me, you say, how we could tell the people haram when we have it in my pocket? That was his enlightened and sophisticated response. How we go tell the people haram when we have it in our pocket? Sheikh Ali Mustafa has asked us to look at a situation where you can't do better. And you have to apply the doctrine of necessity, darura. Yes, there are situations where you have no food to eat. And you're going to die if you don't eat. In such a situation, if the only food that is available to eat to stay alive is pork, the pork is still haram. It don't become halal, you know. At no time does pork become halal. It is still haram. But you're allowed to eat it in this situation to stay alive. In other words, it has to be a situation of grave distress before you can apply the doctrine of necessity. But I lived in the United States for a long time, you know. And I saw the doctrine of necessity applied in the United States. Man, them fellas and them full the plate with pork. And when they eat in the pork, they're licking the fingers. It's tasting nice. And they call in the neighbors to come and eat pork too. I saw it with my own eyes. Not like the Egyptian fella. He said, Maulana, I had to go and borrow money on interest for a house. But I want to take you for a drive. This is in the city of Worcester, close to Boston. And he took me in the car to show me the little house he bought. He said, I buy the smallest house I could buy. It looking like Shantytown used to look, small. He said, Maulana, I put the minimum pork on the plate. But look at the others now. Plate full of pork. And they're enjoying the pork. This man is uncomfortable living in this little house, praying for the day he could get out of riba. But them eating pork with the plate full, and they ain't losing no sleep at all over it. And you're supposed to eat the pork only when food is not available. If you hear it have food in Debe, you stop eating the pork and go Debe to get food. But no, they signed in contract for 30 years. I hereby pledge myself to eat pork for 30 years. Yeah. That is not the application of the doctrine of necessity. You're making joke. You're playing joke. You're playing games with the truth in Islam. But where there is a genuine case of the application of the doctrine of necessity, yes, it can be applied. Jamal Badawi, eminent scholar of Islam, may Allah bless this brother of ours. Jamal and I sat down together, put our heads together, and we said, a man have 10 children in New York, and the lease on the apartment coming to an end, and the landlord said, me renewing this lease at all. I make a mistake. I didn't know you had 10. I thought you had 2 children. So the lease coming to an end. And he had no way to carry family. And when he go elsewhere to try to rent, nobody ain't prepared to rent to a man with 10 children. He turned to the community. He said, I go have to sleep on the road. Nobody there to help him. He even have enough money to buy a ticket to leave the country. So Jamal said, and I recognize the wisdom of my brother, in a situation such as this, that man is justified of invoking the doctrine of necessity, provided that he put the minimum pork on the plate. And when he eating the pork, he licking his finger. He detests what he has to eat. And he'll eat the pork for the minimum time possible. And as soon as he could get out of the pork and get food to eat, he out of that. That is the way to apply the doctrine of necessity. Yes?
What I like to comment on is this, that the doctrine that is being preached here today concerning money and necessity, something you already said about the Islamic followers to be awakened, is something that must be put into practice by all, or be preached by all. Some of the lines seems hard as you put it over today, and you make known that some of the scholars in this sect seem to be in line with some of the things that is not fair, in my simple word. I recommend that such plain teaching and truthful teaching should be invoked in the hearts. Because while we have to use money, we shouldn't allow it to be a deception in our travels to the paradise that we are going to. And I appraise the frankness of the teaching of being fair or honest one to another as we go along life, because, as you said, most time dishonesty invoke an evil to repay it sometime or the other. If I should have a car, as you said, that a fuse going by and a fella ripped me off, if you say $2,000, people at some time or the other wait for the opportunity for the individual only to walk on the edge. So such things help people to travel with evil, and evil breeds evil. So my comment is that the teaching that is being put over here today, that it may not be ignored, seeing that you have to lessen down on your trickery. It must be ignored and practice what is being taught here today or discovered here today, if you never discovered, that we all will be able to carry a fairness in our mind one to another and try to develop a better society. Thank you.
When we have the last session, that's going to be the best session, because the last session is one in which I'll be talking the least. In the last session, we bring our heads together. Faiz Amin will have a lot to say. Imtiaz will have a lot to say. Sister Razia will have a lot to say in the last session. How do we respond? What should we do? How can we put our heads together? I'm not leaving you out, Nishtar. We all will put our heads together in the last session to try to respond appropriately to the challenge that we face today. Before we still have another 10 minutes in this session. Before we end, there will be some people who would not remain for the afternoon session. Remember, this book is not being given free of charge. If you'd like to take a copy home, it costs $50. Please give it there at the table. And if you want to leave before the afternoon session, do please write on a sheet of paper your brief assessment of what you've experienced so far in the seminar. And if you would like us to use your comment, because we would like to repeat this seminar next month, the last Sunday of next month. Do you know I turned away people from coming today? Because my list already had about 120 something. How many people do we have present here? About 60, 70? So about 50 people who called and registered to come did not come. And as a consequence of their registering, we had to turn away people from coming today. Now that's not fair. So we'll have to